Hello pandas of the internet, my name is Panda-chan. I'm a full-time artist-ish, a part-time cosplayer, and someone who hasn't really been asking for you guys to subscribe. I am super close to reaching 300 subscribers, and I hope that we'll reach this before February ends. That would be really fun. In today's horror story, we'll see how a DM vents about, well, a really long-running problem player. So, if you're ready, sit back, relax, and let's get into it. This RPG horror story was yet again posted by Skyguard on Land. A stuck-up problem player stinks up my group for years. Hey folks, got a story that spans many years, campaigns, and rulings. Nothing particularly nasty, but still caused unnecessary irritation to everyone involved. Seriously, don't be like this, dude. Actors: me, DM, for the vast majority of the time. Problem: the main subject. Griller: a player brought in by Problem, surprisingly chill and pleasant guy. Dummy: one of my real-life friends. He was the one Problem usually had problems with. The story starts way back in 2012-ish, at the very formation of my first TTRPG group. Up to this point, nobody of the actors played an organized role-playing game before, and mostly had experience with old-time forum role-play games. We started in 3rd edition D&D, and surprisingly enough, everything was smooth sailing for the most part at first. Nobody except me understood anything about the rules, so I was busy babysitting everyone for the first year or so, but that wasn't a big issue. Then we switched to 5th edition, cause it was similar. That's where the actual issues start. Basically, Problem had ego issues. The man unironically believed that he was of noble blood, and therefore was entitled to act as a prick to absolutely everyone he thought was somehow inferior, which happened to be Dummy, because Problem thought he was stupid. Now, some people are in fact smarter than others, but to Problem this wasn't enough. He was offended every time Dummy talked back to him on anything whatsoever. Dummy spoke out against Problem during a vote, 2-hour argument. Dummy did something that Problem told him not to, 2-hour argument. Dummy made a character that Problem disliked. Problem refused to interact with said character in-game, and also 2-hour argument. Since I was the DM and Griller made a conscious effort to not get involved on either side, I was the one who had to mediate the conflict pretty much all the time. I don't know whether I did good or bad, since I never managed to actually resolve it, but at the very least I was usually able to get them both to agree that fighting in the middle of the game was counterproductive to having fun. Besides ego, Problem had another issue. He was constantly late/no-show. Every third game, me, Dummy, and Griller were forced to wait for him for an hour or longer, and sometimes he would not show up at all. As you may have guessed, this was never explained or telegraphed in advance. When asked, he'd just shrug and say that's how it was. Because of this behavior, I now have a hard rule that every player must tell in advance if there is a possibility of them skipping or risk getting kicked. These two problems together made my experience as a DM utterly miserable. I would genuinely spend as much time mediating for Dummy and Problem as I would running the game. The worst part is that neither party seemed to have any desire to do anything about it. Problem was content to basically just yell at Dummy, and Dummy genuinely didn't care for problems bullshit and wasn't bothered by it. Griller would pretty much just tune out until I mediated the two enough so that we could continue. On top of this, every time problem would leave us hanging, I would positively fume, mostly because nobody else seemed bothered with wasting time instead of doing something. Eventually, Griller decided that he wanted to try DMing. I was happy to hear that because I was genuinely fed up with problems shit, and I was glad that for the moment it will be someone else's problem. Oh, naive I was. Sure enough, Problem started arguing with Dummy for some nonsensical reason again, and sure enough, Griller tuned out. Well, at least I didn't also have to write the plot. Eventually, after Problem didn't show up for 100th time, I gave him a piece of my mind, just like I always did. He seemingly decided that he had enough and told me he quit. Just like that, it was over, and my next problem would start taking center stage. But that's a story for another time. You may be wondering, why would I tolerate him for so long? And the answer is prosaic. I knew Problem for years. It's hard to kick someone out when you know they can be better, because you've played with them before. The man was alright most of the time. He had really weird opinions, but who doesn't? I can't help but feel that I didn't do enough to correct his behavior to this day. But I really should have gotten rid of him way earlier. I completely agree. It's definitely difficult to get rid of someone who you have played and interacted with for a long time. And I would probably have difficulty confronting my friends like that as well. With that, we have come to the end of the horror story. Leave me a like, subscribe, and in the comments tell me, would you like me to draw your D&D characters? I know we're a bit far from 500 subscribers, but I was thinking that when we reach that milestone, I could do a little subscriber D&D character drawing video for you guys. How does that sound? The link to the original story is in the description. Go and give it a read. You can find my social media links down there as well. And with all of that being said, I will see you next time.